I hope the coyote's howling comes through. So, yeah, there's been a few times where I've seen what you might call a ghost, or experienced. I don't know if seen. I didn't see shit, but experienced something that could be described as they stopped as a ghost. Um, Working at a pet store, I was the manager on duty, and it was like right after a shipment or something. There was a lot of products in in receiving, and it was kind of a mess, and we needed to like kind of clean it up and organize it. But it had a kind of a skeleton crew. It was just me, one guy for the floor, and a cashier. So um, pretty much I had him doing the stocking, and I was running the floor and anything that needed to come up. And he comes up to me at some point, and he's like, "There's a ghost in receiving." I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about? What? Show me." So like, we go back there, and he's like telling me this story, and I'm like, "Um, what?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, I was I walked in, and right as I walked in, one of the U-boats just started moving across the room at the back. And I walked up to it and I said, if anybody's in here, do something else." And right then, right behind me, a bag of ferret food fell over. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? What? And he like pretty much repeats it. And I'm like, well, there's a camera in here that should have seen all of this if it really happened. So let's go look back at the footage. It was kind of dead at the moment. Like the only thing we were really doing was, yeah, like stalking. Like I was actually coming back to help him at this point because like all of the customers on the floor, they were taken care of for the moment. So I was coming back there to help him anyway. So I'm like, we probably have a few minutes before there's any kind of rush again. So so we go into the office and uh, like I knew it was maybe like 10 minutes or something before this. So I just kind of like go back uh, maybe 15 minutes and then just kind of like fast forward through it until I see something crazy. And he's like, there it is. So on the camera, you can see everything he described. You can see the door at the bottom of the screen. You can see it like kind of start to pop open a little bit, and right as it does, there's a U-boat that moves across, and then you see him walk in and come into the room, and you can see that he's saying something, and then right behind him, let's see, it'd be over this way. Um, this freaking little bag of ferret food just falls over, and it had been sitting there on that pallet in the same spot for almost a full day without being disturbed. So why would it choose right then to fall over? That's a weird thing. Okay. So like we look at this a couple times and I'm like, holy shit. I don't know how to explain any of this via anything other than a ghost. Right? Like I have no way to explain this. And we got freaking footage of it. Like, okay, this is crazy. So check on the floor, make sure everything's fine. You know, there's no customers in need of anything, and then go back to receiving. real quick and like talking, and the way that it's set up, there's like an area right off of the bay where the truck can come in. It's like this receiving platform area, and then there's a hall that sort of goes like the length of the bay, like the you know, and like that's where most of the stock ends up getting kept, and we try to keep the bay pretty empty for the most part. Um, so I have my back to this hallway, right, and we're talking, and all of a sudden, it feels like I'm laying on hot cement or something. Like I'm laying on really hot pavement. Like the way that my hand is at my side, there's like it's hot just like along this surface. Like literally like I'm like there's a hot surface. And like I pull my hand up and it goes away. I put my hand back down and I feel it again. I'm like, what the hell? And then I'm like, okay, so I'm still talking to the guy. I'm like, um, as I'm experiencing this, I'm like, can you like just feel the air back here, like behind me? And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, just you know, kind of next to me, behind me. Just is it hot back here? And like he goes back and feels it, and it's like, no. And I'm like touch the back of my shoulder. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, no, like touch the back of my shoulder. And he touches it. He's like, "What the hell? It's like 150 degrees. Why is it so hot?" Like, oh, I don't know what's going on. And I like step forward, and it goes away instantly. And I step back, and I feel it again. And but he didn't feel it. He like it didn't. He didn't experience it. Only me. I don't know what the hell that was. Never experienced it before or since anywhere. Just on this one day, a few minutes after the U-boat mysteriously moves across the room, and a bag of ferret food falls over when allegedly, when my coworker asks if there's anybody there, do something else. I don't know how to explain that. And for a while after that, there would be like and everybody in the store reported this except for the GM, the general manager. I don't think she. I don't know. She didn't. She didn't ever comment on any of this stuff. Like told her about it, and she just kind of looked at me with like a blank expression, like no condemnation, no acceptance, no like just no acknowledgement whatsoever. Just completely blank. Like, okay, did you order crickets? Like, but like everybody else for like a few months after this, whenever you go in, and I experienced this too, whenever you go back into receiving, down the hallway, it would sound like there was people whispering, and it would stop as soon as you come in. And like you could pull out all of the product, and there wouldn't be any mice. There wouldn't be anything like that going on back there. And we never really had a problem with things like that anyway. Like animals would escape sometimes, but we always knew about it. We always found them because we kept inventory pretty well. So we were like, "Whoa, why are we down a crested gecko? Oh, the little bastard escaped. Okay, we'll find him." And a couple days later, we find him because there's really only a few places where the food is. Or like a rat escapes or comes in on a pallet, and we're like, well, that's interesting. Okay, we're gonna have to chase the rat around the place. So we really never had problems with pests like that. And when we did, we were able to find them usually. I say usually because I'm not going to completely discount the possibility that there was something, but um, as far as any time we could determine that there was definitely a pest, we could find it and capture it and deal with it. But yeah, there would be like these weird whispering, like, and it would sound like maybe one or two people talking to each other, but you couldn't tell like what language it was, or it was just like, and it would stop the second you come in. Very weird, very weird, and it did disappear after a while. It did stop happening, and like before this, so this was probably I think I'd been working there like maybe 3 years at that point. Um, but pretty much since I started working there, um, there were two or three people who reported at night when we were closing, they would see things, um, like shadow kinds of things out of the corner of their eye after the store had been closed and everybody had been all all customers were out of the store and everything, and it was just them cleaning the store. They would see like shadow people in the aisles. Like I never personally saw anything like that, but there were multiple people who reported this. So I don't know. And there was one night I was closing a little while after this, maybe a couple months after this or so. I was closing with the same guy. It was just him and me. So I was counting down the tills and taking care of the money, and he was cleaning the store up. You know, um, and so because it's normally there would be two people. There would be the manager and two other people. So it was kind of a light crew. So in order for him to like finish cleaning, it actually kind of took him a little bit extra. So there was a moment where I'm like, and I even like shouted out, I'm like, "You need me to come help you?" Because I like finished counting everything down. And he's like, "No, no, I'm just a couple more minutes and I'm good to go." So I'm like sitting in the office, looking at the camera because there's nothing else really you can see in there. Like that's all there is. Just looking at the cameras, and on one of them, I just see a shadow move across the wall, and it's got height, right? It's like roughly human sized, roughly human shaped, a shadow on the wall, and it kind of like comes across a little bit, and it kind of pauses for a little while, and it's like doing weird movements, and then it just disappears. And there's no lights. The only lights that are on are they're like emergency lights. So there's no lights that move. There's just like a couple lights really high up in the ceiling that produce very dim light. And it's like I see this, and I poke my head out of the office, and I can see that he's at from where this camera could see. He's at the opposite ass end of the store, completely opposite end of the store. Back by I think that he was by the break room at this point, something like that. He was in that area, but he might have even been in the break room where there is no camera and there's no way that any light from him or shadow from him is being projected in this way. Also, the way that the lighting was in this spot for somebody to cast this shadow, there was actually like right below the camera was a wall. There wasn't really any way for somebody to be in because it was back in the dog grooming area. There wasn't really any way for somebody to cast the shadow without being in frame, without being inside the room. There was like some windows, but there was like corners that you had to. It was. I don't think there's any way, really, that a person could have cast this shadow. So that was weird. Also, this one, even though there was motion, and it said at that point, like it indicated that it had started recording, it didn't actually record it. So I couldn't go back and look at it, even though the computer, while it was happening, indicated that it did sense motion and it was recording. So that was weird. That was a very strange thing. I don't know. Like, no judgment, nobody ever got hurt or anything. Like, this is, but just a little bit spooky. Some weird something was going on. I don't know. Um, yeah, I think that's, other than the times I've seen things that look like skinwalkers, or I don't know how to describe them other than skinwalkers. And being buzz bombed by owls in the middle of the day. I don't know that I've really had spookier experiences than that.